Well, let's go. So, folks, I've been talking with Kevin, right, as relates to trying to get things going with the SNA group and those that want to participate in the platform. So I was going to do two things today. I was going to kind of refresh your memory of what we're trying to provide to you guys in total, but then I was going to have a little deeper dive into Nationwide Life. And I know that some of you are at various stages as it relates to getting signed up. So my takeaway for everybody is to make sure we got clarity as it relates to, are you signed up or not? Do you have your login or not? But what I'm going to show you, and we're recording it, but what I'm going to show you, I'll switch back and forth between a couple of slides in their actual service center, so you can kind of see the various things I'm going to talk about. And I'm always here and to help retrain and or answer questions as you get started. So this slide we showed you, gosh, months ago, right, when we came out and saw you. But I just want to give a little bit refresher for what we're trying to provide is when we looked and said, okay, how do we develop a life platform that can really support what we think are the needs of a property casualty agency? These 5 things kind of rose to the top. You want to have a kind of a relationship that, whether that be award recognition, whether it be sharing some best practices that we have around insurance agencies in general. Kevin can speak to that. He's part of a group that we talk to all the time, or even if it's help in recruiting and staffing, specifically for life insurance, but even suggestions on if you're trying to recruit and staff and develop, for instance, P&C producers. Second thing's around sales processes. So we have, to the degree that folks are interested, we have scripts for cross-selling, new selling, if you're going to do add-ons, things like that. We have digital campaigns that you can install if you're interested. And then I think I spoke to the group. We have some agents that are participating, depending on your agency size. We actually can run clients from your existing book of business, whether it's your P&C book, old life client books, whatever, and run that partially through Nationwide's intelligent underwriting, get you a pre-approval, and then we have kind of a turnkey program for you to be able to email, call script, and say, instead of, hey, do you want life insurance? It's a much different conversation. I've got exclusive offer where you've been pre-approved at preferred rates, up to $2 million in face amount, any of the Nationwide Life products. Let's sit and have a conversation. So a lot of people are seeing benefit of using that. Some people incorporate it into their renewals. So they look 60 days out, they do that pre-approval, and then when we're talking to them about their renewal of their P&C, they actually offer the life insurance. From a training standpoint, I don't know if any of the folks were invited, but we've been doing kind of broad-based training around prospecting, quoting, and closing on life insurance. If you've not been a part of them, we offer and can make those recordings available if you want to have your staff take a look at it. But it's really kind of the basics. It's how do you close a sale? How do you go network and try to find clients? What kind of pivots do you use to actually get the conversation started? We are doing some product and feature training. We do leverage Nationwide Life for some of those specifics. But as you see, I'll get into some of the products. We can have training on any of the products that you're interested in, whether it's some of the basics or some of the ones that are a little more unique. For instance, like an index universal life or long-term care. And then any of the needs-based concepts. So if there's things that you're looking at as it relates to how do you actually evaluate somebody's needs and come up with a recommendation from a life insurance, we do that too. From a support standpoint, part of the benefit of being aligned in this platform is two. One is Nationwide has provided us dedicated case managers and underwriters. So when you submit an application, we pretty much know who it's going to. We have a relationship with them. We have a dialogue with them. So if there are situations where, for instance, we need to question whether we really need a doctor's report or work this case, we're getting their best efforts to try to help support us, in addition to anything that's pending through any of the participating agents under SNA. I can see the cases that are pending, and then I can either ping the agent to say, let's get this placed, or I can intervene and come back to Nationwide and say, hey, wait a minute, it looks like we got enough information, let's get an offer versus trying to over underwrite this. So that case management has been big. And then they also have product experts in case design. If you ever get into something that's even more advanced around advanced planning, key man, things like that, they've got a team of experts that we can plug you into to actually help you not only solve it, but help quote it. And then lastly, for us is the compensation that we try to bring to the group. So let's talk about the Nationwide products. My background goes to Nationwide Life. I worked there for many years, and then Grange. Some of you know me from that. That's actually how I got to know your guys' network. So from a term standpoint, I'm going to highlight this, and then I'm going to jump over to their sales and service center site so you can see all the information that there. But their term comes in the standard durations of 10, 15, 20, and 30. But a couple of the interesting things built into their term at no additional cost are living benefits. So critical, chronic is built in, and we can train you on the specifics of those pieces as well as it's on their service center. That's a pretty unique thing because there's not too many carriers out there that have a term where you can get a long-term care rider. The living benefits, to a great degree, can act like that long-term care. So it allows them access into their, similar to long-term care, allows them access into their death benefit if they've got a situation where they're compromised health-wise, have been given a terminal indication or diagnosis, or they're limited from an ADL's active daily living pieces. From a whole life standpoint, they have the standard whole lives of up to age 100 or 20 pay. This group also has, unique to only you guys from a Nationwide Life, they're simplified. 6 questions, anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 in face, and really kind of just jet issues. NLG is no lapse guarantee. This is basically a permanent term if you're not familiar with it. By definition, it's on a universal life chassis, but what you're able to do is you're able to dial in, say I've got a 35-year-old, you're able to dial in how long do you want this term to run, anywhere from 70 to age 120. And then there is different payment types, whether you pay throughout the duration or limited pays. This also has their long-term care rider that's attachable to it. And it also has the benefit of being a return of premium if they live beyond the duration they set for the policy itself. Their IUL is their Index Universal Life. They have 2 flavors of this. They have one that maximizes the protection and one that maximizes the accumulation, depending on the client, what they're looking to do, the needs that they're trying to solve. That actually has a long-term care rider on it too. And then lastly, the true long-term care product that they have is Care Matters. It is what would be regarded as a hybrid product, not a straight long-term care. I would tell you in the industry, their Care Matters product it switches from quarter to quarter between being the first or second most sold long-term care product in the country, and their IULs in the top 5 in the country. They have overall a very strong portfolio. I think if you start quoting them, you're going to find that their term is very competitive. So overall, we feel really good about what they offer from a product offering. As part of this platform, before I get into their products, actually I'm having this conversation with another Grange agent. We promote Nationwide Life, but there's 2 instances in which through our platform, if you don't have options, through our platform that we would go away from Nationwide Life. The first would be if there's a product that you need to sell or you have an opportunity to sell that Nationwide doesn't offer. So for instance, individual worksite. If you have an individual worksite opportunity, we have a contract through Cincinnati Life that we could leverage our level with them, and you could sell that product through this platform. Additionally, and this has been working really well, if you've got a client that's got what we would call hair on it or has a unique medical background, you provide me the information. You know, it's Brad Sorenson, he's 50, he does this from an occupation, here's his medical background. I literally float that to their assistant chief underwriter. That chief underwriter, he's getting back to me same day and saying one of three things. Tell me more. I need a little more information to give you a direction. Looks like we'd underwrite it. Let us take a chance at it. Or, you know what, we don't like it and we'll go elsewhere. And I've got success stories of us placing cases we never thought would get placed because I prelimed it. I also have an example where Warren, our CEO, has a significant key man policy that Nationwide said we're really not interested right now. We'd have to postpone it. And it looks like we're going to place it in another carrier with Table B. So I bring that up because, yes, we're trying to be true to Nationwide Life, but we're not being so blind that we can't try to capture a sale if they don't have a solution for you. Okay, so this is the site that all of you will get an opportunity to have login for. You can see up on the right-hand side, it says who you are. I can tell you for me, there's a couple of pages that I bookmark. As you get in and work with it, I think you would see that you potentially would too. The easiest way to me to navigate is to go up to products. You go to products and you go to life insurance. So they've got a lot of material on this site. They've got easy access elements that I'm going to walk you through on the products and all the different attributes about it. They've got illustration tools. They've got calculators for you to use. You can use forms. We'll get into that as it relates to how you submit business. And then on the far right, there's some specific things that are more kind of what I would call aids, especially if it's a product or a need, for instance, like long-term care that maybe you need a little guidance on. But let me give you a flavor. If you click on index, basically what it's showing you is, here's the product. So you'll see in their index, you don't pay attention to this one because it's a New York sale, but the one up top, this is their accumulation IUL product. And it basically walks you through everything. It talks about really who this product's positioned for, how are the charges and the returns, what riders are available on it, and then also gives you some of the key features around it. If you go into this, it'll actually summarize it and do it in a little bit easier information for you to be able to see, as well as getting access into things like their intelligent underwriting, things like that. If you want some details for their rider, there's riders or information around the critical and terminal, which again is built in, as well as then being able to add on the long-term care rider right here if you'd want. I'll just kind of ask the group, maybe Kevin or anybody, I mean, predominantly, what all products are you used to selling? Is it more basic around term and whole life, or is it expanded beyond that?
Well, in the P&C world, I mean, the typical agent selling the term product and some small, permanent type policies. Okay. And simplified issue.
And I'm going to get into their intelligent underwriting as well as simplified issue in a little bit. But I kind of wanted to, you can see same setup for the term as it relates to everything that's on there, the benefits, the terms that are available, the guarantees. They do have what I would consider a pretty liberal conversion privilege for durations 10, 15, and 20. It's the duration of the contract itself. And then for 30-year, you can convert within the first 20 years. Same kind of element. If you want a little better drill down, you've got, again, materials, product information, and material for you that's both client approved and advisor approved, gives a summary. Same kind of setup as it relates to the riders and definitions within it too. I would tell you in general, my take on Nationwide, especially Nationwide Life, they have prided themselves for a long time as really being kind of an upper tier product developer. I think that you see that depending on when you get into it, and when you start selling and you start comparing against other products, they're fairly strong from that standpoint. Anything else on this page that and again, I'm going to show you quoting in a little bit, but anything else about the products that you'd like to see?
The long-term care matters.
Okay, so the Care Matters is a pretty significant product for them, right? As I mentioned, they have a whole drill down as it relates to when you go to your state. I just did this morning to verify the pieces. Here's everything about Care Matters. who it's offered to, what the key features. The big thing with their long-term care product is, first of all, it's very flexible in where you can get reimbursed for the expenses you would incur. And second of all, you don't have to supply receipts, right? It's oh, by the way, I need this much. You're able to dial this in pretty much as it relates to what kind of coverage you want and what you want to make sure gets covered as far as an aggregate amount. And then there's a whole structuring as it relates to how the product itself is set up.
So it's an indemnity product, not a reimbursement product, right?
Correct. On this product being as significant as in the marketplace, and Kevin, Kathy, she oversees the development of this. I would tell you that they're constantly trying to make sure that they've got the pulse of any trends. So for instance, the top one here, home health care from the typical uses, some products actually are a little more restrictive in that. They're not, right? Because they realize, oh, by the way, if you've got a family member helping take care of you, that's a real element that may not be as documented or as straightforward in some other products in what they require from a reimbursement standpoint. There's different payment options, and Kevin, we can have us and we can have some of their product experts. We are going to do a long-term care training module similar to what we did, and then Kevin, this summer, I think we're going to pull together people that are on the platform in total and bring people into Columbus so you can kick the tires and get to know some of the nationwide people. We'll probably do a long-term care element there too.
Yeah, it would be great, I think, even for this group, if you could do just exclusively.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Long-term care product.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's one of those things where it's probably it's not a you should, or it's not a nice to. It's something you should be having a conversation with all your clients, right? When you talk about from a risk standpoint, it's not maybe. I mean, it's pretty demonstrated that 50% of the population is going to have to live in some kind of assisted care arrangement at some point in their life. So protecting that and getting out in front of that, you can see, again, they're one of the few people that even throw those living benefits on a term product. Now, it's not obviously what a long-term care product and or rider would be, but they still take that serious as it relates to that being a solution people need to have an answer for. Let me go back to the slides and I'll walk through a little bit more, and then I'll jump back to some other things on their service center site. So when you think about submitting business, it's pretty much the standard way. One clarity for you guys is, so when you go to get set up with Nationwide Life, you guys as an agency are individually contracting with Nationwide Life. That means that it's your book of business. That means that what we're doing is we're a platform to support you. We're aggregating and working with you, and then we're trying to provide you all the benefits that I talked about. So submitting business, you guys submit the business that you would normally do. You quote and illustrate off the Nationwide site. That quote drops straight into their application from an electronic standpoint. From a submission standpoint, if anybody was on the webinar this week, we have what we would refer to as old school and new school. If you write a paper apps are fine. If you do an electronic app, that's fine too. We have an agency that does significant amount of business. They actually have all their producers do paper apps, and then they have somebody key it into the system so they take advantage of their intelligent underwriting. That is totally up to you guys, but my point is they're flexible in how you want to write the business and app the business. They have an intelligent underwriting platform. That platform, in theory, it's really focused on what I would say ages 20 to 50. And basically what it does is they have an actuarial engine, an engine behind the scenes that can look at somebody and review what type of risk they would look like. The easiest example I give is, somebody that 30-year-old, they're traditionally not dying from a disease. They're traditionally dying from an accident, things like that. So there's pretty prevalent in the marketplace now to have those models out there. Traditionally, what Nationwide's striving for is somewhere between 70 and 80% of all those applications go through with no medicals. So The way that you do that, it has to be electronically submitted one way or another. It runs through their intelligent underwriting. It'll identify to you when you're apping it whether it actually qualifies for intelligent underwriting. And then it'll go through and does an evaluation behind the scenes through an actuarial model. It also runs a script check to be able to see if your applicant happens to be on any prescriptions that would be problematic or have an indication of something more severe or severe from a medical history standpoint. Then the only two other things that happen to be able to evaluate the case is every application, this is standard in every carrier, they run what's called an MIB, Medical Information Bureau, and then they look at the answers on the application. So in a perfect world, you've got somebody younger, they're applying for, in their intelligent underwriting goes up to 5 million. They're applying for something under 5 million. If the application's clean, if the intelligent underwriting's clean, they've got a pretty good chance of getting something that's issuable in days versus weeks.
Brad, do they factor in credit, like a credit score or insurance score?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The reason why I know this is I helped kind of build or construct the intelligent underwriting for Grange Life when I was there. So they don't go off a credit score. The easiest way to think about it is because that's out of bounds from a data that they can obtain from an FCRA perspective. But your credit score is built on all these factors that accumulate your score. They're able to get to that. So for instance, home ownership, defaults, bankruptcy, those kinds of things factor into it, but it's not like if you've got an 800, you're going to get a preferred, and a 700, you're going to get a standard. Does that help?
It does.
When you're doing an application, they have, from a medical interview standpoint, they do have two options. You can do a phone, which is pretty standard. They also have an online. I would tell you the online is gaining a lot of momentum. First of all, it's way more the convenience to the applicant. The irony of any of this that I've seen from behind the scenes is traditionally the data they get from applicants from an online is way more accurate and or truthful. So your preference as it relates to, in your client's preference, right, as it relates to their sophistication and everything, but those medical interviews have two options. And then one thing that is a benefit for you guys to be able to do this is a cover sheet. And I know you may not be used to and or familiar, but I'll kind of walk through it, is for any agency that's on our platform, we ask for you to do a cover sheet for two reasons. One is that's the indicator for when it goes into Nationwide Life to make sure that Iscential has viewability into your pending in addition to you. Secondly, then, is as we kind of look at the aggregate and the compensation we're trying to provide you, that's what lets them know to say, hey, oh, by the way, this should be paid through the SNA agreement through Iscential. And so what I've been doing is I'll prepare a cover sheet for each agency that's participating. You reuse the same one. I'm going to pre-fill, for instance, your agency name, your home office number, any of the other pieces, and then you basically tell a story. And if there's no story to tell, that's fine. But if you've got, for instance, I wish I was 50, but Brad Sorenson at the bottom, you may not be able to read it, says under comments, applicants 50 years old, prior cancer history, initial detection in 2010, treated from 2010 to 2012, clean screen since 2013. That's made up, but my point is as you're working with underwriters, the more that you can tell them up front, there's two advantages. One is they're going to hone in then on the real information they need to be able to make an underwriting decision versus just doing it generically. Second of all, it's a good way for you to get a good dialogue with any of your applicants to say, look, tell me what's going on now. Let's avoid any surprises, put it on the cover sheet, and that underwriting group knows that we're trying to do the right thing with them. Questions around any of that?
Are you going to be able to provide us that sheet?
Yeah, I'm going to do every agency under SNA that signs up. It'll be your individual agency name and home office and number. And then again, that's the magic when this hits Nationwide Life's new business, that they're able to put it on. When I do that, I will send you, it's very easy. You basically store it as a document, you prepare it, you type it out real quick. When you go to hit submit in the application, if you're submitting it electronically, it's literally just attaching a file before you submit the application. If you're submitting on paper, you print it off or scan it and send it just like you do with the remainder of the paper application. But I'll provide instructions and documentation around that. Let me go back then to the sales center site so that you can kind of see some of the things then from an application and illustration. Again, from my standpoint, it's pretty. I think it's pretty standard to what you're used to seeing, but I want to walk you through that also. All right, let's try this again. So life insurance, high pipeline, and again, these two ports right here, the quote in the application, I'd highly recommend putting it in your saved bookmarks so that you can get to them easily. Okay, so when I'm doing a quote, I put this in. You can kind of see, obviously, it's pretty straightforward as it relates to any of the different products, any of the different things that are highlighted that you're going to go in to add into. You can select whether you're doing a profile or entering in their health class right up front. You put their height and weight, and then you move on as it relates to being able to do a quote. And then that quote in and of itself then will feed right back into the application. If that quote then, there's a way to save that quote and then a way to move that from quote to application.
Is the height weight required at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure is. So, and again, here's where you're kind of seeing those highlighted pieces. You see the state, you see the product type. That product type in and of itself, well, you got to do state first. So I'll use you guys as Georgia. And then it's obviously dynamic enough to understand, what products are available for any given individual at that time, based on the state that you're in. If I'm doing a term, if I do Brad Sorenson, calculates that. There's the male. You can put a case description if it's helpful for you as it relates to keeping you honest. From that standpoint, it defaulted to my state. I do a term.
Yes, hold on just a minute.
And then from there, it'll tell you right away, here's the products, basically the 10, 15, 20, and 30 from a term standpoint. If I select 20.
This is Ronnie.
I enter in the amount, say I want to do $1 million. Here's where it tells you that it'll go through the intelligent underwriting. The intelligent underwriting criteria is based on age and face amount. That's why it does that. Here's where it asks you if it relates to, do you want to do an online interview or a telephone? If you want to review the current underwriting guidelines, that's right here from a click standpoint. If you want to see height and weight, if you want to see ailment, they, just like most carriers, have a pretty comprehensive underwriting guideline that I would tell you, I think they follow it pretty closely. I would tell you that we have had some success in the guideline, not necessarily on height and weight, but clearly around how they treat, for instance, certain medical issues, whether it be cancer, whether it be blood pressure, things like that. Once you go into this, it'll have you select whether you want, if there are medical requirements, whether you want them to order them or yourself. It also gives you the opportunity as it relates to if you want to deliver the contract electronically or not. And then it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's pretty common for most carriers to have that navigation on the far left as it relates to as you're going through things. Everything from the questions, what plan, the beneficiary, the agent cert. Right here, when I talked about the cover sheet, it would be under attachments. So when you would go to attachments, this is where you would attach that cover sheet. And again, you tell me, I think for the most part, Kevin, keep me honest. I'm assuming most folks that are part of your group obviously are used to, selling some life insurance and familiar with electronic applications in general.
I'd say the ones on this call are.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I mean, my take is especially since theirs is through iPipeline, so many carriers use iPipeline. You're going to see a lot of standardization. I don't see that this one necessarily is wildly good or wildly bad. It's just pretty normal to what you see. And they have done a good job of being able to, whether it be the visualization of the green check marks, you're good here. The red is, oh, by the way, you're not done yet. So there's a sequence to make sure that you're getting things completed. For anybody on the calls, anybody do paper applications or does everybody do electronic?
Totally depends.
Yeah.
I'd say now over the last 2 years, I've probably done more electronic applications
Okay.
than ever before.
Everybody's a little different. I have a bias of the electronic just because Nationwide wouldn't try to, a lot of carriers, they wouldn't try to maximize that intelligent underwriting if they're not trying to be smart as it relates to let's not over underwrite every case. Taking advantage of those electronic scenarios allows you to do that. And I would tell you from an aggregation of all the people that we're going to have on the platform, I'm holding Nationwide accountable. So for instance, I'm going to know in aggregate how many of the applications collectively everybody submitted that could have qualified for their intelligent underwriting. And I'm going to be talking with the president of Nationwide Life saying, hey, our placement ratio or the expedited percentage for us is, I'll make it up, 63. It needs to be 80. What do we need to do? Maybe you're a little too strict, whatever it might be. So we're going to manage that element, but I like the electronic, not only from the intelligent underwriting, but from a new business standpoint, it's pretty good way of making sure your applications are clean so you don't have follow-up items that you missed or didn't think of.
And also, Brad, it's the exact same questions on both, right?
Correct. Yeah, the only that's actually a great question. Let me see.
Because some carriers, if you use the electronic app, there's a few less questions, and then they have to go through a phone interview or something like that.
Yep. So let's talk about, to a degree, this would be of interest, right? I know this product pretty well. Nationwide, just like a lot of captive carriers, built life products basically under 100 or under or 50 and under that were simplified issue and really kind of predicated on existing clients with Nationwide. I don't know what your book of business looks like, Kevin. One of the things that Nationwide is becoming more open to is expanding this product to various carriers that you may have as clients on the P&C side. And again, it's not for everybody, but there's no medical. It's a simplified app. It's 6 questions. It's up to 50. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but depending on the individual and depending on the circumstance, it can be a pretty easy turnkey solution, especially if you're trying to do something like a final expense solution. And if you look and see, so it's 10 to 50. It's non-tobacco 0 to 80, tobacco 18 to 80. It's not competitively priced, right? If somebody's healthy, this is not the route to go. But a lot of carriers don't even offer their products under 100. So that's the logic that they're trying to apply to this product in and of itself.
But it'll go up to 50,000.
Yeah.
So it's similar to the auto owners simplified, but
right.
Did you say it's a 5-year term or 10-year term? It's a whole lot. Okay.
It's a whole lot. Yeah, they used to have I think it used to be a 10 that was part of this program, and they just realized, based on how this is being sold, the term wasn't really relevant. The whole life was the more relevant product to have if you're going to offer something like this. So let me jump back. I know getting a little bit close on time. So walk through that. I shared with you the cover sheet. Let's talk a little bit about. We talked about the training and support. I provided this. This is pretty similar to what we had talked about when I was with you guys, when Warren and I were with you guys late summer. But again, just so you understand the flow. So business has been submitted, the application's in place, the cover sheet's been been put in place. All the communication about the application still goes to the writing agent. That does not change. What changes is, as being part of the platform, I'm able to look and see just what you're able to see. I can see the notes, I can see the underwriter decision, I can see what's outstanding, and I can tell you the cadence that we're working on is we have a group through Iscential that basically is looking at every pending application, and we're trying to monitor those on a weekly basis. Where are they at? I don't want them to get stagnant. I don't want them to get stuck. You could expect to get an email from me, just like I would send the same kind of email that I would to Nationwide Life saying, let's get this thing placed, right? Whether it's collecting the premium, whether it's getting your client to follow through with the online app, whether it's challenging them to make a decision. This case management is really kind of coming into play where, again, I don't want wastage. I want every app that you send in to at least get an underwriting decision so you can try and sell it. But that case management is something that a lot of people, depending on if you're busy, you're not familiar with life, you got other things going on, we got an extra set of eyes. And the advantage, again, that I'll go back to is I'm not talking to their entire staff. I'm talking to 4 case managers and 4 underwriters. That's the audience of people that I need to influence or talk to so I can have a little more accountability from me to them on the Nationwide Life side. So I'll kind of pause. What, again, this is quick, but what things can I answer, address? Kevin, other trainings that potentially you think would be relevant for this group or whoever?
Gerald, you'll like this comment. Gerald has made comment. That's what Grange used to do.
I know. Well, Kevin, I would tell you, and you know this because I think that obviously we stay pretty plugged into you. Look, if you go back to, I'm having again the Grange agent, one Grange agent I'm talking to. This is the stuff that used to be offered to captive multi-line agencies, right? You had a relationship, you had a rapport with other agents, you were getting trained, you got good comp. That's what we're trying to revisit. Because I would tell you that, look, you can go sell life anywhere, right? There's all kinds of arrangements you can make. I'd argue, I don't know too many people that are bringing all these elements to you in a way that from a P&C standpoint.
I do think a needs-based selling class,
okay,
just by itself, needs-based selling would be a great one for this group.
Okay.
From that, and haven't plugged in our laptop. It's about to go dead. Sorry.
No problem.
But that would be one, and I had wrote something else. I mean, Missy, Ronnie, y'all got any suggestions or anything? Knowing that they have the NLG product is a very good one. I didn't realize they had the no lapse guarantee product.
And do they use a percentage off the face amount on that, or a certain amount each month on the rider?
Oh, you're talking about the
long-term care.
Well, on the NLG, is the long-term care rider available on NLG?
Yeah, long-term care rider goes on NLG, and then you're able to dial in the long-term care rider benefit amount anywhere from 2%, 3%, or 4%.
Okay.
Is that one commission?
Yeah, one commission. In fact, the nice thing that they've come to realize that their Care Matter product gets underwritten by long-term care people, which are more looking for, not necessarily mortality. Their long-term care rider is being written by life insurance. So it's a little more, I don't want to say lenient, but it's a little more realistic, right, as it relates to what is it they're actually looking for. I think early on, a lot of people were probably throwing all those over, and people are losing sight of, oh, by the way, the long-term care rider is still within the confines of the life insurance and the face amount that it's assigned to.
Well, a life company would rather pay you the benefits monthly under a long-term care rider is having to pay it as a lump sum. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Right. And then, Kevin, one of the things that we are going to train on, because I'm going to have a training. I don't know if it's Kathy or some of her product people, but I'm going to show the spectrum of Care Matters, long-term care rider, and then the 3 living benefits. What's the trade-offs? How do they work? When can they solve what situation?
I'd love it if you could schedule, like I said, the long-term care and that as soon as possible. I think that would be a great one from that standpoint.
Yep. Yeah, I would, we're out of pocket, next week. We're all going to be in Houston, but I would see that long-term care rider or long-term care, webinar probably happening in, March.
And the needs-based selling will be, I think, a very popular one.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy for us to throw together. And it's a good catch. I mean, obviously we've done these webinars, and Kevin, do you have access to the webinars or any of that?
To y'all's webinars?
Yeah.
I have
So
not.
you were on the one this week. Have you been on to any of the others prior? Okay. Okay, we did one on prospecting, and we did one on defining a solution. This last one was on, getting the app. Your client said yes. The next one's going to be about best practices of how to get a case placed. But I'll add in the needs-based selling.
So you're gonna send us a link or something?
I will. Yeah,
to-
we basically set up I've set up a website plus a YouTube channel, and you can just go click on those right away and see them.
I think Ron was about to ask the same as I'm going, how do we get logged in? Who has been approved? We don't have numbers or logins at all.
So to me, it's been crazy, right? Have all of you gotten emails from Nationwide as it relates to getting contracted or signing up?
I don't recall.
Some yes, some no. That's been a little bit of the challenge, Kevin. So I've got Kevin, I'll follow up after this. I've got an updated list from the manager and licensing that's been helping us, because I want to make sure, obviously, those that are interested, let's get you going, right? And because again, since you guys are kind of an association, you create your own individual contract with Nationwide Life individually. I would tell you that the other thing that's kind of unique. So for instance, that simplified whole life product, the only reason you're getting it is because Nationwide has agreed to give you a direct contract. They really aren't handing those out anymore. In fact, the only ones that used to have more their exclusive agency force. But because of the platform we're on, that's why things like that product are available to you where they're not in other distributions. But Kevin, I will get the most current status of who's signed up, and then we will get it resent. And then when it's sent, I'm going to verify that did you get the email? And if you didn't, did it go to your spam, or do we not have the right email address, just so we can get people finalized and going?
Yeah, that'd be great. And Brad, just make sure that if they show our agency is current. I was previously contracted Nationwide several years ago.
Yeah, for instance, I can tell you, Kevin, you're live. I know your number, and because I need that first, then for them to send the introductory email to say, Kevin, go establish your log on. I need you, obviously have a contract for you, can have you log on.
We hadn't gotten that information, so.
Okay, I will verify all that so that the group can get going.